Because if you don't have goals, then you have nothing to kind of strive for.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Chat with Nick. And today we have Noel Pascual, who is a professor of accounting, and he is also the president of the Beda Alumni Association of Southern California. We're here because we're going to find out more about what he does for the Filipino American community in Los Angeles. Hi Noel, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm good. It's such a good day outside. It's sunny. And we should all be outside enjoying, right?
I know, right? Maybe we can go right after this?
Yeah. What purpose guides the person that you are today?
Well, it's funny you mentioned San Beda. So I was born in the Philippines, but I grew up here in the U.S., in Hawaii. But I did go back second and third grade to study in San Beda. And then also high school, 2 years in high school, third year and fourth year. So I graduated high school from San Beda. When I was young, you're just young. When I went back to the Philippines, I didn't really, notice any difference because you're kind of too young. But then when I was sent back as a teenager in high school.
In the Philippines?
To the Philippines, yeah, from Hawaii. Because having grown up in Hawaii, I didn't really want to go back. I thought I was being punished. And I actually was crying and told my mother, no, I don't want to go. Because, as a teenager, I had all my friends in Hawaii and everything, and I'm going to go to the Philippines where I don't know anybody except for my mom's family. Mm-hmm. And so, I was like shocked and everything. So, but I think having gone back as a teenager, when I got there, I realized, oh, this is the country I'm from. Because most everybody is Filipino. Growing up in Hawaii, it's a mixed, race. So Hawaii has a lot of Asians, but Japanese was number one at the time. Chinese, Korean, Filipinos, and you have the Samoans, the Hawaiians, the Polynesians. But there were very rare Caucasians, very rare African Americans. But it's still it's a different types of ethnicities. But having gone back to the Philippines, like, oh, yeah, this is the country where I am from, because everybody's Filipino. So that was like a pleasant surprise.
Were you just going with the flow when you were younger? Because, of course, I mean, what can you say, right? You were like
exactly
being told what to do and you just had to follow. Take me back to when you were younger as a child in Hawaii. What was it like living there?
Just what you just mentioned real quick. So going back to the Philippines, like second and third grade, I remember my aunt was my guardian because my mom was still was in Hawaii, and the time change. Everybody that's Filipino has been to the Philippines and here in the U.S. knows there's a significant time change. And as a little kid, I had to interview. San Beda is a private school, so I had to interview. I had to be accepted. Right? And you obviously have to do good in an interview. And I'm like jet lagged. And so I'm there with my aunt and they're interviewing me and I'm falling asleep. And she has to nudge me. Hoy, gising. So I was like, but you're like a little kid. So luckily I passed the interview and I got in. But so I just wanted to kind of address that.
What kind of questions were they asking you?
I don't even remember. I was just, it was so long ago. I don't remember and falling asleep. But it was mainly they were asking my aunt, but of course, I'm there and I have to be awake. But it was mainly my aunt's my aunt answering my tita answering the questions. But obviously, it's about me, and obviously they want to know, who I am as well. So that was funny.
Growing up in Hawaii and the Philippines, in two different places, two different countries, which is kind of similar in terms of topography and landscape, right? It's very similar, but in Hawaii, you get the conveniences of being in America, quote unquote America, somehow.
That's true.
right? And
Yes.
so, as a child, did you even notice those differences?
Well, what I did notice, so even though Hawaii is very tropical, the Philippines is just hot and humid. So there's that difference, slight as is may be. But what I did notice is the schooling academically. You know, everybody talks about Asians, right? Asian parents, Asia being harder on academics, and I find that to be true because when I was in Hawaii, going to the Philippines as a second grader. And I didn't have a summer because the summer ends or starts in June in the U.S. and at that time school starts in June in the Philippines, so I didn't have a summer. And so my tita said, "You are already supposed to know how to write script, you know, handwriting." They learned that in first grade. Well, in Hawaii, they didn't even tell us, you know, we haven't even started to learn. So what happened is, and this is my excuse, and I stick to it to today, I tell my students, the reason why I write like a doctor, my handwriting is bad, is because I had to learn in 1 week how to write script from scratch to finished product. Because she said, oh, when you go to San Beda, they expect you to know how to write in script or handwriting. So that's what I noticed. The academic is totally much harder. The expectations are a lot more in the Philippines. And same thing when I went back in high school, which I can talk about later. But this is the other thing I found quite interesting. So I grew up in Hawaii, so it's hot. Weather is like 80 degrees, 70 degree, 80. So it's even warmer than here in California, right? In general. So we wear shorts, tank tops, flip-flops. Going to the Philippines, going to a private school, San Beda, they wear pants. I'm like, it's so hot, but people wear pants.
Do you have uniforms?
Yeah, we had uniforms. We had to wear I don't know if I'm saying it right. Polo barong, but we had to wear a barong, right, as part of our uniform, the top. And you had to wear like pants. So I was like, wow, it's so hot, but people wear pants. So back then, I guess what I was told is if you wear shorts out, like going in, you're looked more as you're low class or you don't have money. That's why you're wearing shorts. But if you're middle class or higher, you should be wearing pants. But for me, it was like, well, I'm wearing shorts because it's so hot. It's not because I'm trying to, impress anybody. And so that's one thing that I found. And then also in the Philippines, so in Hawaii, people are tan and they want to be tan. And if there's visitors, they're light, they tease them. They say, oh, you're shark bait, you're too light, right? But in the Philippines, everybody wants to be light.
Opposite.
Yeah, and they're wearing long sleeves because they don't want to get dark. I'm like, it's so hot, and they're wearing pants and long sleeves. So, and they have umbrellas in this. I was like, I've never seen people use umbrellas for the sun. In Hawaii, it's only for the rain. So those were the main differences that I noticed.
And was it confusing as a child, but did you just have to adjust every time?
So as a child, like second, third grade, it wasn't as much because, like I said, I don't know much, but I do remember they told me that I scared them because we have a driver and they take us to school, and take us to school, bring us lunch, and then take us home. So one time the driver wasn't there when the class was over, so I took a taxi. And so then the driver came, and then they told my aunt, Noel's not here. And everybody's like panicking, where's Noel? Oh, no. And here I am, I'm in the taxi, right? And I get home for the taxi, and I go, oh, I need some money to pay the taxi driver. And they go, huh? Why'd you take the taxi driver? You got us all worried. What if the taxi driver took you somewhere else? So, they were all worried about me, and I was just taking the taxi, didn't think anything.
So you're like trying to be independent because in Hawaii you're more independent, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I just said, well, the driver's not here. I can go home. I have to go home. I'll take the taxi. So.
When you're in the Philippines, you're with your aunt and she's your guardian, and you really don't have your parents there. What was that like, living with your aunt and not living with your parents, but when you go back to Hawaii, you're with your parents? So what's the difference in upbringing? Were you missing out on the love of your parents from time to time? Did you miss it? Or were you glad that you were in the Philippines? You're kind of out of the shadows of your parents?
It's kind of the opposite, because my mom. So I'm the only child, so I was basically spoiled, right? But my aunt, she is a math teacher. My mom, my tita is a math teacher at Manila Science. She was very strict. She had Alvin Patrimonio as a student who became later a PBA star. But she's very strict, and my mom wasn't. So I prefer to be with my mother than with my tita in the Philippines because she is very strict. And so it was quite the opposite. And that kind of leads to, so after the third grade, I went back to Hawaii, and then, I basically, if somebody asked me, where are you from, I would say Hawaii, because that's where I grew up. That's where I grew up. Even though obviously I've been here in LA longer than anywhere else now. But then I went back in high school as a teenager, like 15 years old. That was more of a culture shock for me, because now I'm a teenager, right? I'm not like a little kid that, I just follow the flow. And so that's when I realized I'm going to all boys school. There's no girls, in Hawaii. I'm used to co-ed. We're wearing uniforms, and then this part was funny because my tita, again, that was my guardian, she said, because obviously my English, and those that know are from the Philippines and grew up there and then came here, that even though they speak English in the Philippines, there's a bit of an accent, right? So it's not the same. So my tita said, I can't let you go out with your friends until you learn to speak Tagalog. Because I could always understand, but speaking, growing up in Hawaii, I didn't have to speak it, but I could understand my mom, and I hear it, I understand it. So she said, and I go, why? And she goes, well, because you only speak English. In your English, if somebody hears you speak English, they know you are not from here. They know by the way you speak English, they know you're from the U.S., and they might kidnap you and ask for ransom. So I'm like, oh my God, I just go to school and come home and I don't have a life? I was like, okay, I have to learn Tagalog. so my first year, I didn't know much Tagalog. And then because my tita told me that, I said, okay, I have to learn. So I learned Tagalog. And like towards the end of the third year and into my fourth year, at first, Robert Season, he is the point guard on our team. When I first saw him, he goes, hey man, because he knows I'm from the US, hey man, do you have a quarter? He's like asking me for a quarter. And then like at the end of my third year in early fourth year, they said, wow, marunong ka na mag-Tagalog. Hindi na kita paborito, parang hindi ka na stateside. Mas magaling ka pa mag-Tagalog sa akin. So I learned how to speak Tagalog because I wanted to be able to go out with my friends. Mm-hmm. So that will I'll never forget that. But yeah, but I still to this day I tell people if you say something in Tagalog that's too malalim, I won't understand. Mm. Yeah, I just know conversational. Yeah,
but that allowed you to have that sense of identity, a sense of belonging, right?
Yes.
As a Filipino in the Philippines.
Yes, and that's what I said earlier. As soon as I got there, as a teenager, not as a little kid, because I was realized, oh yeah, this is the country I'm from. This is where I kind of belong, because this is where I'm from. And so I kind of so after the fact, I appreciated that I was sent to the Philippines and went to San Beda and all that. So, but obviously at the time, I didn't want to go.
You have that experience of what many Filipino Americans probably don't have, because you were able to live and go to school in the Philippines as a Filipino American. There's this thing that with Filipino Americans about finding their identity as Filipinos and Filipino Americans and being in between two cultures, so to speak, the Filipino and then Filipino American, and where they really belong because they're neither here nor neither there. And you actually lived that. Does it really help to know the language to be a Filipino? Does it really help to know the language and to know what it's like being a Filipino living in the Philippines? Because that's always people here. You're not Filipino enough if you don't know the language. You're not Filipino enough if you don't know certain things or how to live a certain way as Filipinos.
That's a very interesting question. So I definitely think, obviously because I learned Filipino, I think it definitely helps if you learn Filipino, speak the language, and I don't even, as far as I know, I don't have, because you can speak Filipino but have an accent, right? So like Caucasians would go there and try to speak Tagalog, but they have an accent. So when I speak Tagalog, I don't have, obviously the local people will know that I'm probably not, 100% fluent, but I don't have an American accent speaking Tagalog. And so, so I think it definitely does. If somebody asked me, I said, yeah, it would definitely help if you try to learn the language. Filipinos in general are happy people, and regardless of the situation, and they'll welcome anybody, and they're just happy that you're visiting their country. But of course, if you speak the language, I think that makes a big difference, knowing the language, and I'm glad that I learned the language.
When you were in the Philippines, what did you learn from your experience being a student in the Philippines, from grade school to high school?
What I noticed is in the Philippines, everything is more formal compared to when I grew up, in Hawaii. Because Hawaii is even more laid back than California, right? New York, people compare New York and LA or California, and LA is more laid back than New York. Well, Hawaii is even more laid back than LA. So it was very informal. I grew up very informal. But in the Philippines, I noticed even though the Filipinos, they're obviously their first language is Tagalog, but when they speak English, they may have an accent, but they know more of the formal words in English, and they use more of the formal words in English, is what I noticed than when I was in Hawaii. So that's one thing I noticed. In general, the Philippines was more formal in dress, in the language, even when they speak English, than in Hawaii. So so that I found that quite interesting. And then what I also noticed is there was more of an European influence. So Filipinos obviously like the U.S., look up to the U.S. That's what I noticed because I'm there. Oh, you're Phil-Am. And then I play basketball, and basketball is the number one sport in the Philippines. So it's like I'm a Phil-Am and playing basketball. It's like, okay, there's nobody that doesn't know me because of those two things in the school. But there's more of a European influence in the Philippines than there is in the U.S. So what I found was the European style, the fashion, it would go to the Philippines first from Europe before it even come to the U.S. So I noticed that as well.
Did you notice that about music as well?
Yes, there's a lot more European influence. So like growing up in the 80s, Duran Duran, Culture Club, Simple Minds, and, all these, they're all from Europe. There's a stronger influence of European music in the Philippines than there is in the U.S. Yeah, so I found that quite interesting because before normally you would think, oh yeah, the Philippines loves the U.S., adores the U.S. because for after World War II we were under the U.S. for a little bit, but that's one thing I realized. Oh, there's more of a European influence, even in the clothing.
Did you say that there's more of a cultural influence happening from Europe than from the U.S. at that time? Yeah,
at that time. Yeah, maybe a little bit more so. Not. It's not like 80-20, but maybe 60-40 or, but just, yeah. Definitely a lot more than what I noticed in the U.S. Because yeah, it's like, oh, there's the stronger European influence in the Philippines.
Let's talk about your experience being in an all-boys school since you're wearing your varsity jacket.
Yes, I am. Well, that was a transition because growing up, I've never been in an all boys school. Obviously, when I was young, that didn't matter as much. But in high school, yeah, that was a big change. And then this is one thing I noticed, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but because it's an all boys school, you can easily tell who's how should I say. Like I said, I don't mean it, but you could say I'll say it in Tagalog. Who's bakla? Yeah. So because they're basically like the females of. So I wasn't used to that in a sense. But then I got used to it real quick because I'm an open mind. I'm not, but I don't I don't have anything against So anyways, so that's what I found out really interesting because. What they'll do is they'll kurot, is that kurot? I think is the right word in your yeah. So it's like okay, I learned that real quick. But there's it seems to be there's more of them. Maybe it's because I went to a boys' school. And one thing I did notice also, watching TV in the Philippines, almost every sitcom has someone that's gay, right? A male, and they're funny, but in the U.S. that you never see that back then.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's more common, but back then, like because I was there in the 70s and 80s, it was widely accepted on the TV, especially the shows that are how do you say comedy, right? Yeah. So those are the things I noticed going to a boys school, and they feel more deprived. Like they know less about the females. So they feel like, you know what I mean. So they're like, oh, there's more of a mystery for them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because like growing up in Hawaii, I've seen girls in the school.
Did you notice a difference between what it's like being in a co-ed school in Hawaii and being in an all-boys school in the Philippines? And would you recommend one over the other?
I think that's a very good question. In general, I think, and I thought back then as well, that it's better that it's co-ed because in real life, you're not going to go through life where it's just all boys or all girls. Mm-hmm. And so I think in general, it's better that it's co-ed so that, the kids are used to it at a young age. Because what I notice is they're kind of like, to them, the girls are mysterious. There's like mystery or because they don't spend as much time with them. And to the point that, if they see a girl, say "Wow," so they'll go out. And then also in like social settings, they tend to be more shy because they're not used to speaking with girls on a regular basis.
Growing up, do you think that has an effect on relationships between men and women who are Filipinos who went to those schools, all girls schools, all boys schools?
That I mean, it would be hard for me to say because I kind of grew up in both. I would say probably, but what I notice more is growing up in the Philippines. There's more of how should I say it? So growing up in Hawaii, right, versus the Philippines. So I went to San Beda, right? So it's a private school, probably one of the top three or whatever, like Ateneo, La Salle, San Beda, right? So they're kind of probably one of the top three. Well, I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but in my mind, that's kind of so. There's more of a, I guess, division. Like if somebody went to and I don't mean this in a bad way. If somebody went to Ateneo, La Salle, or San Beda, they probably wouldn't hang around with other people, whether it be male or female, from, let's just say, public schools. Because I don't really know. I didn't grow up there, so I don't know much about the public schools. But that's what I noticed. Like, they would probably not. But let's say these people, right, moved here in the U.S., that wouldn't be a factor, right? So there's like, it doesn't matter where you went to school as much. So that's one thing that I noticed.
So socioeconomics and class play a big role in Philippine society.
Yes, that's what I noticed. Not more so than here, and me growing up here in the U.S. Yeah, and because even the clothes that you wear. So even though like in the Philippines we had uniforms, you could tell the ones that have money is because their shoes. Their shoes are expensive shoes. Their barong, even though they're wearing a barong, it's tailored, has their initial. So you can tell the little things that even though we're wearing a uniform, you can tell, okay, this person.
You're very observant and you notice details. It kind of goes back to what you do professionally. You're a professor of accounting. How did you get to finding out all these details? Because I know in accounting, you have to be exact. It's very exacting. You have to look at all these details, right?
Yes.
And so how did you even become an accountant?
So that is funny. So it kind of goes back to my father, my dad, was an accountant, but I never really thought about that until I decided to go into accounting. And the reason why I went into accounting was I thought, well, maybe if I go into a business and I create my own business one day, I don't want somebody to be able to embezzle money or take money from me. So I want to learn accounting so that I know how to, keep track of the money. So that's how I kind of started. But then when I started taking it, I was like, oh, I like this. And then I started working. I prepared my own tax return. So I said, oh, this is not hard. To me, it's just reading directions and following directions. So I kind of found it relatively easy for me. And then my dad, who's an accountant, when I told him, oh, I'm going to go into accounting, and I thought he would be excited, he goes, oh, why? And he goes, it's not that it's hard, but it's very tedious. It's like we have all these long worksheets. And I said, oh, Dad, there's a computer now. But he goes, well, yeah, but it's still, it's very tedious work. But that's kind of how I got into it, and I just liked it. There's a myth that it's about numbers. It is about numbers, but it's simple math. It's addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, some fractions, some ratios. But real math is like engineering. So it's basically simple math, and more of it is like the principles of accounting. And a lot of kids or people don't like math word problems. So accounting is basically all math word problems, and then you have to throw in accounting principles. But basically, yeah, you have to be detailed oriented. That's it's just the nature of the job, because if you make mistakes, we're talking about money, right? And everybody, whether you're an accountant or not, money is important, runs the world, and you need it. And you don't want to be ripped off, or you don't want to get less money than you deserve. So it's a very important thing. But what I did notice is there's different types of people, right? And you just said accounts are usually detail-oriented. Once I got into the major, so once I went to USC in the accounting major, what I found was, oh, these are my people, because everybody, the personality are pretty much the same. We're introverts, right? We're not the party people. We're more conservative in our ways, and like you said, we're very detail oriented. So it's more of a personality fit. We don't like to spend money. We like to save money. So a lot of those things.
Did you go to parties when you were at USC?
Well, I wasn't in a fraternity. I was more in an academic fraternity, Beta Alpha Psi. But I did go to some parties here and there, but not as much. part of it is USC was so hard. I first went to Pasadena City College, so a junior college. Then I transferred to USC, but it was like night and day. At Pasadena City College, granted, I was working full time and going to school part time. I hardly studied outside of class. I studied during the classroom time, and I still got good grades. But at USC, when I transferred there, it was the opposite. I was studying full time, working part time. I studied harder, and I studied hard even outside of class. But my GPA still went down. So just to keep up and to be able to graduate, it was really hard. And so with that being said, I didn't think that I could do anything else. In fact, some of my friends were there. It was like, "Hell, why don't you just walk on to the basketball team? Like, you can get walk on and try out, but not a scholarship player, and you can get me on the team, and you can be watch the games in the front row because you're one of the players." I said, "No, but that's too hard. I wouldn't have enough time to study. So like, I'm not gonna be a NBA basketball player. I'm too short here. In the Philippines, at that time I was tall, but here I'm not. So I said, no, that wouldn't work. So that's kind of my path into accounting. But there's a little, it's a little personality niche kind of thing. So most accountants are not extroverts. So yeah.
And why do you think those types of personalities gravitate towards professions like accounting?
Well, I think because when you're dealing with numbers and you're adding, subtracting, and like you said, it has to be exact. It has, so you kind of need to be by yourself, be able to think, and having too much noise or too much distraction is gonna lead to more errors. And you don't want any errors. Like if you're doing somebody's books, they want to know exactly how much money they have in the bank. You don't want to make that kind of an error. So I remember one time I was in the summer, I took a summer job, and I was a bookkeeper, right? Because I didn't have any degree, so I couldn't be like an accountant. A bookkeeper, you don't need a degree. So I was doing the payroll, okay, and I made an honest mistake, right? Because it's easy to make a mistake. You transpose a number. Let's say it's 37, you put 73 or whatever. And then I realized, that little mistake that I made is going to affect somebody's pay, the company's paying, and the person that's working, receiving the money. They both want They both want to pay that person the right amount, and that person wants to receive the right amount. So that kind of tells you, however small it may be to us or the company, but to that person or that employee, they want the right money or salary that they're going to get. So it's that's why it's so important. And this is what I tell my students all the time. Accounting is the only profession where there's auditors, meaning there's police, right? So doctors, there's no auditors. There's no other doctor auditing meaning checking if you're doing things right. Lawyers don't have other lawyers auditing their work, right? But accounting, there's auditors all over the place. So you can be the accountant in the company. And if it's a big company, the company will have their own internal auditors checking the work of the accountants, make sure they're doing it right. If it's a big company, they're going to be external auditors, which they call the Big Four. They're going to check if the internal auditors are doing their job and checking the accountants. Then you have the IRS, tax auditors. You have the Securities Exchange Commission. So they're going to make sure, because if you're a Fortune 500 company, right, they want to make sure you're doing all your books, right? Because, these scandals way back, Enron, WorldCom, these scandals are basically accounting related. So they're big scandals. Ethics comes into play. So that's why it's very important. Then you have the state auditors, you have federal auditors, you have city auditors, local auditors, right? So I tell my students, if you're interested in accounting, it's great because there's more jobs out there. Mm-hmm. And not only that, if you have a mom and pop shop, right? You go to the corner store. They're not going to hire an economist. They're not going to hire a statistician. They're not going to hire an attorney. But they need somebody to do their books. And they need somebody to do their taxes. So every business needs an accountant, but not every business will hire an attorney, a doctor. And then if you take it to individual level, everybody that works and makes money, they're supposed to file their tax returns. Well, if you're not filing your tax return, if you don't know how to file your tax return, then you need somebody to do it, and that's an accountant. It's a tax accountant. So we just basically determined that almost everybody and every business needs an accountant one way or another.
No pun intended. You really have to be accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a deep sense of heavy responsibility that goes with being an accountant.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
And so, what do you think what is your drive in becoming a professor of accounting, and how did you even get to thinking about becoming a professor?
Well, that's a very good question. So it comes down to, I mentioned earlier, accounting. My father was an accountant. And then earlier I mentioned my mother was a teacher, right? She taught Filipino. I think that's the subject. Is that a subject in the Philippines?
Yeah.
You know, like English here, Filipino.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she was a Filipino teacher, if I'm saying that right. And so I didn't realize this until I started doing volunteer income tax assistance. Basically, I volunteered. I was the lead instructor. I had to teach these volunteers how to prepare tax returns of other people. And it's mainly geared towards the low income, elderly and low income. And so I was the instructor. I taught them. But before I could teach them, I had to go to a teach the teacher type of training. And so when I was exposed to that, that's when I realized, I like teaching. I like doing this. And so so ever since then, I started teaching on the side. So I started teaching on top of my day job. So I taught at night, weekends, and so that's kind of how I got into it. How I got into the teaching side of accounting, from actually practicing accounting to actually now I'm a professor. So, but yeah, this is very interesting. So it kind of goes back to my father, accountant, and then my mother was a teacher. So now I'm an accounting professor. So.
You're the product of two people. You're literally it.
Exactly. And I didn't realize it. I realize it now, but I didn't realize it at the time. Like, okay.
It is a good combination. What do you try to impart to your student or the authority figure in the classroom? What do you tell them? Because earlier we were talking about accountability, and there's policing in all sides of the accounting industry. What do you tell those aspiring accountants?
So the other reason that I got into teaching was when I was going through myself through college. I mentioned I was working full time and I studied at night part time, and there were those professors that I am. So I just kind of felt like, I want to give back. I want to give back. I want to teach and give back. And I've had bad professors, like two. I'm lucky I only had two. So then I said, the students don't deserve this. They deserve better. So then I said, okay, I want to be a professor so I can give them better. So that's kind of part of the reason why I wanted to be a professor. But for my students, if they're interested in accounting, I kind of tell them what I just said, that there's a lot of jobs there. And then if they're interested enough, then I kind of lead them to the schools, because there's different schools that focus on accounting, because I teach at junior college, so they basically have to transfer. So I kind of guide them to which schools are better for them to transfer. So for example, USC is usually number one in the area, like in Southern California, but it's expensive, right? So CSUN is another option. UCLA, although they don't have accounting, but they'll take the economic majors. as accountants. So that's kind of what I try to lead them and guide them and tell them. The number one thing actually is to get involved. So if and this applies to any profession, but in accounting, there's usually networks, there's usually clubs at the schools. So get involved in those because a lot of it is who you know. Obviously, it's good to, you're a good student and everything, but a lot of it is you need somebody pulling you from the other side, to get those positions. Because especially nowadays, it's really hard in this day and time for any profession to get a job. So a lot of it is the networking and getting to know people in the industry.
Speaking of networking, you're the president of the San Beda Alumni Association of Southern California. And what led you to be a member and to be part of that organization?
Oh, okay. That's also a very good question. So interestingly enough, so I kind of gave you guys a little history of myself. I grew up mainly in Hawaii, but I did go back to the Philippines twice, right? Grade school and high school. So when I came back, when I graduated from San Beda in high school, I came here. I went to Hawaii first, and I came to LA to go to the university. So I never thought of San Beda really in my mind, because I'm like, well, San Beda is all the way in the Philippines. I'm here in the U.S. I'm back in the U.S. now, so I never really put much thought to it.
It was far from your mind, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're no longer there in the Philippines.
So I was like, yeah, that was in the Philippines. That's a past. I was there for 2 years. So I never gave it a second thought, right? Mm-hmm. So I never gave it a second thought until I saw somebody, right, in LA from San Beda. So I said, oh, okay, yeah, I remember you. There, we graduated together. So in the Philippines, you call it batch. Here, you call it class, right? So we graduated in the same batch, the same class, the same year. And so we kind of hung around together with each, and it was only three of them. So it was just there was just four of us that I knew. So we kind of hung around together just because we had a common denominator. Graduated at the same year in the Philippines. So we hung around together. So this was when I was going to Pasadena City College and everything. But then I mentioned earlier when I went to USC, I transferred to USC, I kind of disappeared in a sense because I had to concentrate on studying. So I kind of lost touch with them. So I didn't hang out as much. I didn't go out with them as much. So from there, I kind of lost touch, right? And then fast forward, so this was more like, so that's from the 80s to the 90s. So now we're in the around 2012, I think. My cousin from the Philippines, who's also went to San Beda, sent me something, pasalubong, right? So he gave me, sent something to a friend to give to me. But that friend happened to be former president of the San Beda Alumni Association that I didn't know existed. So once that mutual friend gave me I think it was a San Beda T-shirt, the pasalubong, he mentioned, there is a San Beda alumni organization here. And in fact, one of your teammates from the basketball team, not only was he my batchmate, we graduated at the same time, but he was my teammate on the basketball team. Said he's here, and he was a former president. So that's when I knew. Then that's when I just realized, oh, okay. So yeah, so he was on the basketball team. He was my batchmate, and so former president. So that's when I knew. Like, I graduated in the 80s. I didn't find out until the 2012 that there's a San Beda Alumni Association here, and he was the former president. So I found out in around 2012, that there was an organization. So even though I found out in 2012, I knew it was there, but I wasn't really too active. And as you know, my background, I like basketball, play basketball and all that. Until like 2017. So 5 years later, they had this basketball intramurals where all the different Bedans from the different batches would put a team and play. So my year, they put up a team. So obviously they wanted me on the team because I used to play on the actual Red Cubs, the team. And so I played. And the sports director at the time of the San Beda Alumni Association saw me play in the intramurals. And he said, I want you to try out for the alumni team. So there's this alumni team, which is basically an all-star team of all the, So I tried out 2017 for the alumni team. I made the team. And so that's when I kind of started getting involved with not just basketball, but the alumni association. And then the next year, 2018, the person that got me into the team, sports director, I replaced him. I became the sports director. And I got our team, alumni team, to the championship game. Although it was close, we were actually favored and we were supposed to win, but we lost. So then and then being an accountant, I was able to file like the nonprofit 501c3 for the organization, and I just did it like pro bono. They were ready to pay like I think $1,200 to have it done. I said, I can do this. I'm the sports director. I'll do it for the organization. So what's funny is that was like in 2018. They were telling me, they wanted to do this since 1982. So like, what, 1982 until now? So I got a lot of notoriety because of that. They gave me an award in 2019. We had a grand reunion in Las Vegas. They gave me an award for being the sports director and also, filing the 501c3. So that's when I really got involved. And then, and as you know, I think you did one of our articles. So the All-Star Game, basketball at USC. So during the COVID years, it was a little bit, I wasn't as involved just because it was COVID and there wasn't much activities. But as you know, having been a graduate of USC and also San Beda, USC at the time had a Phil Am basketball player. And so they had their first ever Filipino heritage game. And they wanted to put on an all-star Filipino team, like a pregame before the real game. And so they looked to me because they thought I was perfect in the sense that I graduated from San Beda. And not only I graduated, I played basketball there, so I know a lot of the basketball people. And then I also went to USC. And so that's when Much, I think you know Much, he was more on the entertainment side. I was on the basketball side. We put on an all-star team, Filipino all-star team, like a college all-star team. So from San Beda, La Salle, Ateneo, Mapua, San Sebastian, Letran. So that's basically how I kind of got involved to then becoming a sports director back-to-back. And then they elected me to become president. So now I'm the president. And then they even gave me an award, the Outstanding Overseas Beda Award. So I had to go back to the Philippines to pick up the award. And it's this huge trophy. And people were teasing me, that's bigger than the Oscar. And I go, yeah, it looks like a little boy. I mean, it's literally so big, it looks like a little baby. It's the size of a little baby. So,
oh my God.
But anyway, so that's kind of how I kind of got involved.
Moving forward, where do you see the San Beda Alumni Association of Southern California going with all your experiences of being a teacher, knowing how to lead people, and being a basketball player, being part of a team, but you're leading a group of individuals who came from the same boys' school. Where are you leading the Alumni Association at this point?
Okay, so that's also a very good question. So at this point, so from I mentioned like 2018, right? I think when I got involved in 2017, 2018, that was kind of like the peak. We had a lot of members' involvement, especially like on the basketball side, because to play basketball, you don't have to necessarily be young, but you have to be able to play. So the older generation, probably won't play as much. So what happens is between 2018 and now, the population got older and older. And so there was less involvement, less basketball. So right now what we're trying to do is get the younger generation involved. Get younger officers into the club and just get younger members in general so that we can kind of keep it going. And then you mentioned my students. What I do is, as a nonprofit organization, yes, we are San Beda alumni organizations, but our events are open to everybody. So I actually invite my current students whenever we have an event or a fundraising. I also invite them to come and partake in our fundraising events. Mm-hmm. So so hopefully we'll get some younger new blood, and because that's the only way it's going to continue if we get the younger generation. And we talked about co-ed earlier, right? Well, now San Beda is co-ed. So that's what we're trying to do, because back then it was like an old boys school, right? But now it's co-ed, so we're trying to get more of the women, right? Girls, females, to be involved, be officers. So that's kind of what we want to see happen in the future. So obviously the new recent, because you have to be an alumni. The requirement is just you don't necessarily really have to be an alumni, but you have to have gone to San Beda for a full year. So as long as you went to San Beda for a full year, you can qualify to be in the alumni.
Now that you're the president of San Beda Alumni Association of Southern California, and you've gotten the Outstanding Beda Abroad Award, would you say that you've completed your purpose in bringing people together, or is there something else that you haven't accomplished?
Well, I think it's starting, because like I said, from 2018 to now, it's kind of went down. But I think it's starting with all these events that's coming up. We also have like a dance event in October. We have a camping event that's coming up. There's a UAP NCAA basketball. But I think it's all starting, also coming together, and we're bringing in more members, newer members, younger members. So I think it's all gonna come into play. But that's a very good question. I do feel accomplished in a sense because I got these awards. I'm able to do things that I wanted to do, but there's always something that you can do, and as a person, you can always improve. So that's one thing I learned, because when I was younger, I put goals, several goals, business goals, personal goals. What happened was I reached those goals. And then what I noticed was after I reached those goals, I kind of took it easy, took the foot off the gas pedal. And so what I realized is you always have to have goals. Because if you don't have goals, then you have nothing to kind of strive for. And so having said that, even though I do feel accomplished, right, gotten the awards, I still think, there's always things that we can improve and learn from and improve on. Mm-hmm. And that's what I tell my students, whatever it is, whether it's accounting, the only thing that anybody can ask of you is to do your best. So as long as you're doing your best, that's all you can do.
Thank you so much for being with us today,
no problem.
Noel.
Thank you for inviting me.
There's so much wisdom coming from you and so many golden nuggets. Thank you so much for being with us. And if there's anything that you want to tell everyone in terms of your projects, you can invite everyone.
Oh, yes, of course. So if you guys are interested, basically what we do is all the money that we raise, it goes towards a scholarship fund, and it goes towards low-income, scholarly students that get accepted to San Beda in the Philippines. And so you can just go to our website, and the information is there. sanbeda.org, so SANBEDA.org. And if you go in there, you'll see all the information. We have our email and the events and everything in there. So everybody's welcome. Even though we're a San Beda alumni organization, everybody's welcome to join our events. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Noel.
Okay.
And for everyone out there, thank you so much for being with us today. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and comment San Beda. If you want to find out more information about San Beda, comment San Beda below. And we'll see you in the next episode of Chat with Nick. Bye!
This episode is brought to you by Tang and Java. Thank you for watching. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss out.